I'm not even sure how much there is to say after the trade deadline in terms of the Jays, but let's do a roundup anyway. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In Victoria I talk hockey and baseball from Scotland, and today we're doing a quick run through what the Jays did and didn't do at the trade deadline. Now, unlike the Leafs at the trade deadline, who had this really dramatic, impactful, big change sort of thing going on at the deadline, the Jays were very undramatic. In fact, the entire MLB trade deadline was also pretty undramatic and uneventful. There were a couple big names like Verlander going to Houston, but even so, there wasn't that much happened, and particularly as a Toronto fan, there's not too much to talk about. So a few weeks back in July, Genesis Cabrera, and I'm really sorry if I'm saying that name wrong, Cabrera was traded to the Blue Jays from the Cardinals a few weeks ago in exchange for Sammy Hernandez. The 26-year-old reliever had 32 appearances from the St. Louis bullpen. However, he was DFA'd and so was quite underwhelming for the Cardinals, so I am not sure how much he's going to bring to the Jays, but hopefully he adds a bit of depth that maybe they were missing out on. Then my personal favourite trade came in, and it was Jordan Hicks. The Jays acquired Cardinals reliever Jordan Hicks at the end of July just there. He is an exciting addition in my opinion. He was a highly sought after relief arm. The 26-year-old right-hander has had a really good season so far, and with Romano being placed on the injured list, he was definitely an essential addition to the team in terms of his powerful relief pitching, and I really think that Hicks and Romano as a pair really have the potential to be one of the most powerful pairings that the Jays could ask for in their bullpen. And finally, the only trade happening on August 1st, the trade deadline, was the acquisition of Paul DeJong. Through this trade, the Jays completed their trio of trades between them and the Cardinals, as they acquired infielder Paul DeJong from St. Louis in exchange for Matt Svensson. With Bo Bichette getting injured the other night, it was announced on Tuesday that he'll be out with an inflammation in his patellar tendon. This meant that the acquisition of DeJong really upped in its importance compared to before, because he's mainly played shortstop, although he does have some experience also playing at second base. Hopefully Bo Bichette will be back in the lineup as soon as he is healthy enough to do so, but we're still looking at weeks here without Bo Bichette, one of the players who has been kind of carrying the team through. I would really say that Vladdy, Bichette and just a couple of others, including maybe Chapman, have really carried the team lately, so to see one of those stars gone, I find that kind of scary. However, it's hoped that DeJong, as primarily he plays shortstop, he can sort of fill a gap here that the Bo injury has created. However, realistically, no one is Bo Bichette, and I'm aware that I'm biased, I know, because Bo Bichette is my most favourite Jays player, my favourite baseball player, but it's still nice to see that the Jays have been able to fill that position up at the trade deadline. It's better than having just a gap created, and DeJong does look really promising, so I'm excited to see what he's going to bring to the table. Now, to touch on the main thing that the Jays didn't do that I was really rooting for, and that was Teoscar Hernandez. I really wanted the Jays and the Mariners to reach some trade agreement that would see Hernandez back in Jays uniform, but no such trade took place. I think he would have been a perfect fit for the team, and at one point it was looking so likely. It was being reported that the Jays were the front runners. I really thought it was going to happen, and then it just didn't. It just looks like there wasn't enough in it for Seattle to make the trade, which is completely fair. No team is making a trade that doesn't benefit them in some way. But still, I was kind of devastated. I love Teoscar Hernandez, and I would have loved to have seen him back in Toronto. So now that the trade deadline is done, can the Jays do it? Are the Jays going anywhere this year? They're currently third in the AL East, and they've got 66 wins and 49 losses. Their wins have been very inconsistent, but then again, baseball sort of works that way. It's a game of fine margins, and you go through periods of slumps and you go through periods of wins, and so I don't know if the Jays are too unique in that aspect, but they definitely have got some problems that we have seen throughout the entire season, and I'm not sure how much that's going to cost them if they make it into the playoffs. I think they're going to make it to playoffs, personally. I still think they're going to make it. I don't know if they're going to win the division. I'm not sure. It's definitely possible. Baseball is just so, it's such a long season that sometimes you sort of lose track of stuff because you've got just so long that you're watching the same team for. But it's definitely possible that the Jays still take the division. They're definitely not out of the running for it. However, Baltimore are really strong this season. I don't know if I'm feeling kind of optimistic today given that the Jays won against Baltimore last night after getting hammered by them the night before. But I feel like they do have great potential. The Bo Bichette injury I feel like might hold them back a bit more, so I'm a little bit more cautious about my optimism now than I was even just a few days ago. Definitely possible. I definitely think they're making it into the postseason. I just don't know how far they'll get in the postseason. I think it really is going to depend on how healthy the rest of the team stays, particularly the rest of their star players. They need to stay healthy, otherwise I think they're going to run into some problems. And it just depends on how other teams do. If Baltimore take a massive slump, then they're definitely more in the running. But then again, the Jays could really totally fall off the wagon and maybe not even make the postseason. So we'll need to wait and see. I feel like it's still slightly too early to predict any postseason stuff, so I'll talk about that more as it gets closer to the time. So there are my thoughts on the trade deadline for the Jays. Though again, there really wasn't too much to talk about and I wasn't even going to make a video on it, but I just really wanted to talk some baseball. I feel like we've been lacking in baseball content on this channel. And I thought since there was a few moves, I would say something about it. Basically. So comment down below, how do you think the Jays did in their trade deadline moves? Do you think they could have done more? Are you happy with what they've done? Let me know in the comments. And thank you so much as always for watching, guys, and I'll be back soon with more hockey and baseball chats from across the pond. Bye guys.
There's many ways to be happy. You can do whatever you like. You don't